And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man asking you all of your probing questions, good brother Nephenor.
Hello. I have the pizza and I'm ready to join.
Before we went live, he ended up doing the I have the pizzas in a German accent, which the joke writes itself. You all know the joke. I'm not going to say it.
You will enjoy the pizza.
No pizza for you. You know, like no soup for you.
No. You have to put the pizza in the oven.
But last time around, we handled a lot of characterization aspects, especially the myriad races and things that are equivalent to races, but not races in the traditional sense, like being able to play as a sentient virus or as a parasite.
So a politician.
Pretty much. Or a influencer. But this time around, it is all about making vehicles as well as wrapping things up. Initially, the things we're going to be covered would be covered in this week and next week. However, when I looked through it, I realized we can fold this together in one go. Especially since I don't think we're going to encounter anything that's going to radically change what is likely going to be our judgment on Weirdspace. So, first we have the garage. So here's how to design a vehicle. Choose all the essential components it has to have, pick the optional ones you'd like it to have, divide the total engine output by the number of people the chassis can hold to, determine the top speed of the vehicle, and find a mechanic who can put the whole thing together.
Who's crazy enough to could do it.
Then again, I think in order to be a mechanic or an engineer in some form, you have to be a little bit crazy.
As an engineer, I agree with this 100%.
And you've probably had your fair share of stories of engineer players creating beautiful and terrible things with the physics of a game.
Who do you think did it most of the time? That was me.
Even if I've had a few of those myself, even if one of them was a case of accidentally inventing thermite. But then we get to the garage parts and prices, and once again we have to deal with the one thing that's been a bit of a burr up our ass regarding the presentation. I am not turning the PDF sideways for this.
I can't say I blame you.
As I mentioned a while back when this happened before, I liken this to the you have to turn it on its side 2-page panels in some comics. You don't see that as often these days in modern comics because, well, and you haven't really seen it since, I want to say this, like the 80s. For good reason. It's a fucking stupid idea. But
yeah, I'd agree with that.
You know, after that, it goes into the engine size setup and how to calculate the setup. But then we go right to the normal setup with the optional systems. A lot of them are pretty standard. Though things like cloaking devices and disruptor shieldings are considered illegal and cost D6 or D10 thousand BM.
Also, hey, you know, honestly, I don't know why. Everyone should have a cloaking device.
Also, the option for wild hand signal steering and dance mat steering. Which just puts this image in my head of somebody steering the ship like they're playing DDR.
Hey, that sounds like fun, actually.
Uh, then we go even further when it comes to examples of ground vehicles and their components, starting with cars, then bikes, then tanks, then one-man walkers, then mounted weaponry, and then water-based affairs. Again, the question that's in the back of my mind is, why did this have to be turned on its head?
I get a feeling that somebody just didn't know how to turn it properly, or didn't want to spend the time.
Yeah, but why in the actual text did that need to be landscape? But after that, we have a second-hand ship table. Can't afford a new ship? Buy a pre-loved one. Each roll in the D100 credit table will reduce the cost by 1,000 credits.
I've always hated that phrase, previously loved.
We've seen what happens with used cars and used car salesmen. Although I do like number 64. The ship AI has needs, damn it. She likes to feel special and be treated like a princess.
I actually, in one of my previous games, the ship that my character had, kept his AI kept referring to him as Hal and saying he couldn't do things.
Damn it. Yeah, that tracks. There's also 80. The steering is demonically possessed, can be voice activated, however, it's very aggressive. Or you have the gravity in the cargo bay is permanently inverted.
I kind of like 84 too. The internal scanners show an extra life sign permanently in the cockpit.
Wouldn't that... So, Pilot from Farscape?
Exactly.
I still find it funny that Crichton's actor in that had said that the actor for the puppet was paid more than him.
Considering how difficult that puppet was, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I've seen the internals for some of the Henson Company puppets, like when they were doing the Dinosaurs show.
Oh God, those were so detailed.
Mm-hmm. Especially for a TV series. But after that, we have a standard sheet for cars, bikes, fighters, cargo ships, tanks, walkers, which is definitely appreciated, and I like that there's space for other things. But when it comes to the way it works, this is definitely a case of I wouldn't have first-time players try and build something out of the garage. This is definitely something for people who want a little extra math and want to mess around with custom vehicles. If you really need a ship, I'd say either have it narrative your first time around, or have it be something that the GM gives you instead of building it yourself.
I like the range of stuff, because you know what? Can't you see I'm Walker here?
Yeah, though a walker with a speed of 20 miles per hour is max. I will say the majority of mechs in BattleTech are looking at that and laughing.
Yeah, that is kind of slow.
Because That is about as slow as heavy and assault mechs, which tend to clock at about 40 kph. And let me see how fast the Wasp was, which is considered the OG of Scout class mechs. Speed is 95 kph, which in Freedom units is just shy of 60 miles an hour. So, freeway speed.
Zoom, zoom.
Mm-hmm. And conversely, let's look at another OG, the Atlas. So we're going with the original, and that has a speed of 54 kph. So 33. An Atlas is an assault mech, the heaviest class.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was a big boy.
Yeah. All right. What about a King Crab? Those are another assault type. So that's 54. So same as an Atlas. What about an Awesome? So also 54. I think 54 is just the standard speed for assault mechs. Which is why the 20 miles per hour for the Walker in this universe I find kind of amusing. I'm pretty sure the Walkers in the Armored Division and Starship Troopers are faster. And just for the fuck of it, I want to see if I can find how fast the Grandpa Gundam is. Let's see. It does not say. Just says that max acceleration is 0.93 g. Oh wait, it says max speed 165 kilometers an hour. Keep in mind this is Grandpa Gundam.
Yeah, old school.
Mm-hmm. And
back when I was a youngin'.
165, that's 102 miles an hour.
So these walkers are more like I'm thinking. Oh god, the exosuit in Aliens,
which may have been the intent, but by describing it as a walker with that kind of size, I'm just thinking this thing. You want to know what's comparable in speed to this in something like BattleTech? An urban mech.
Oh god, fucking urban mechs.
Yeah, no curb the Irby. Next, let me go on Sarna one more time to see how fast an urban mech is. No. 32 kph.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Which is just shy of 20.
So they advanced in some ways in tech, but obviously not in mech creation.
Yeah. And obviously there are faster versions. I'm specifically referring to the stock model. But I'm not going to go into all the different variants because if we do that, we're going to be here for days with just one mech. But the point is that unless the Walker is supposed to be like the power loader from Aliens, I find 20 miles per hour max to be a little slow. And I know people make jokes about the urban mech being so damn slow, but in its defense, it's meant for city fighting. Speed is not really a priority. So its big disadvantage of being slow isn't as much of a disadvantage. Now it is obviously there's the possibility that you could do faster versions using the garage system, but the standard walker being 20 mph, and since on board it has a heavy weapon mount, I don't think this is supposed to be the power loader. Just looking at what it has on board. But right after that, it goes into a bit of the setting, and this is something I'm going to be skimming past, since we usually skim past that kind of material.
I gotta say, the title of the next chapter had me going a little, or the next sector had me thinking a little too weird.
Mm-hmm.
I suddenly went Beavis and Butthead. This sector is caro!
Although there are some very weird entries within that section, I will admit, especially the cow people. Then we have the GM section at the back of the book. And the first thing that it goes into is how Paul Cat GMs without any plot or storyline, which is a whole lot of designer notes. That's definitely nice, though the formatting does cause a few breaks, as well as possible events based on different worlds, including Pizza Planet. The players get a pizza.
Yay! Hey, wait, is that where I came from?
Or Rax's Diner. The players find out what the burgers are really made of. Or Rax has some demonic booze. Rax offers a stupid amount of cash for some demonic booze. The players overhear a conversation that leads to something to do.
I'm amused by the D100 bitten by a zombie table.
Mm-hmm. But then we have threat versus reward, when all else fails, i.e. when all else fails, roll D percentage, which is just close enough to the when all else fails, add ninjas that that laws had for feng shui. But
well, it's true. Ninjas solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even at my new job, we have ninjas.
Is that like the corporate pirates versus ninjas scene in Darkness Rising?
No, it's they're support ninjas. Of course, nobody's ever seen them, so we're having problems with it.
Because of course. And after that, there's an optional rule for sanity. Basically, mark a box for a sanity projectile next to the wound value. And if you decide to roll this randomly, 95% means the player gets to choose their starting sanity, and a -5 means the GM gets to choose. This sanity is basically used here as mental wounds. She's saying Mildred should do the cover of Ave Maria. Not happening. I am not singing or doing hymns. That is not a discussion.
But what if we start singing the very first song in Meaning of Life?
No. You're not baiting me on this one.
Funny thing is, we were actually singing that last night in another stream I was a chatter in.
But what I
And the streamer was singing along.
Mm-hmm. But what I am going to do is clip that.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, from the way that they describe sanity in this, it looks kind of almost like an alignment thing. Because high sanity means you're a good person, bad sanity means you're evil.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Not sure how I feel about that.
And she's saying, bro, you're a monk. I'm not that kind of monk.
Yeah, he's the kind of monk that would sing Gregorian scat.
I'm just going to ignore that. But when it comes to the sanity rules here, it's fine for what it is. I can see why it's an optional thing. But after that, it goes into, so what happened to Earth, which I'm curious why this is in the GM section. He's like, what monk are you? Not that. Then we get into the FAQ, which is a lot of clarification thing. As well as the names of the Kickstarters, of the Kickstarter backers, which my name is in here, but it's not what you might think. Because full disclosure, I did back the game. Then we have notes on artificial intelligence, though this is mostly fluff. Then notes for players who might want to create their own world and brand new alien species.
Speaking of which, I actually had to lie to a customer today. They asked me, "Are you a real human?" And I had to lie.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, I am a real human.
But then we have a thing on veteran characters. When you get over the 600 XP milestone, your character is officially a veteran. If the GM will let you start as one of these characters, then you can have 800 points worth of stats or percentage skills, or can trade 30% from this total for a non-percentile skill. Flaws can be used against these as well, as per normal for a starting character. The two major downsides of doing this is, of course, that your character will be forced to retire at 1000 XP just like every other character, and that there are only 2 experience upgrades before that point. So you really have to think about the life they've lived up to that point and created a history for them, and give them a few stars. Well, scars. As a side note, veteran characters are never psychers. They don't tend to live long enough to die of old age. And besides, that's pretty much just giving a player a godlike character from the word go. They are not allowed to take the longevity ability. I don't really understand why. Like, I can understand not wanting people to start out as psychics, but the way it's set up, I'm like, why retire at 1000? Why retire at 1000 XP? I don't quite get it. I'm sure there's a reason that could be argued, but it just seems kind of odd. I realize that saying something seems odd in a game called Weirdspace is redundant. But after that, it goes into a bit of the religions. I do like that the android religion is worshipping a winged toast.
Yes, flying toasters are always to be worshipped. I agree with this.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wish I had that back as my screensaver. I miss it.
Yeah, we also have the idea of biker priests.
That actually works. I mean, you gotta pray to somebody to make sure you don't get too much road rash.
Mm-hmm. And after that is a bit of supernatural weirdness. So if you want to add the supernatural into your campaigns, with things like true demons, cultist patrons, which are on the same 5-class setup. Also, the angels, with a similar path setup, though righteous goes up to 6, as well as control. That's interesting. Then the whole thing. Then we have a thing with vampires, which can get blood.
You also got leeches.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And puppies.
Mm-hmm. Then werewolves.
So I said puppies.
Yep. Then zombies.
Wait. Scroll up. Shark, lobster, werewolf?
Yes.
What the? That's breaking my brain.
Is that better or worse than watching Sharktopus?
Hey, that is a classic movie.
But as you mentioned earlier, we have a D100 table for what happens if you're bitten by a zombie.
Yeah, they repeated this table. It's already up above, too.
As well as a type of infections table, which can either be done with a D66 roll or with a playing card deck draw, which is the first time we see that here.
Yeah, that is a little odd that they'd do that.
Along with the morning after table, which is, again, we have the whole tilt the head problem, as well as smaller text in a completely
Not just that, some of the stuff is written on 3 lines. Like if you look across, it's like 50 goes all the way freaking across.
Let's see. The
fear. Oh, God, that formatting hurts.
Yeah. The fear table, and geez, yes, I know Lolita. I have friends who have done Lolita cosplay. But some of the D10 tables here, like hallucinogen and computer virus, we saw before, as well as things like dodgy doctors and wounds.
I think this is the first time we've seen a jammy baby slinging table, though.
Yeah. We also have teleporters, though teleporters are not exactly reliable. And if you fail it and roll a 10 on a D10, you arrive as a messy dead lump. Then a character background generator, a multiverse list if you want to rip off certain multiverses or certain other sci-fi universes. It would be funny to roll on this twice and then see what sort of fused universe we end up getting.
I appreciate that Metalocalypse is on there.
Mm-hmm. Then convoluted magical item generator.
Although I do see that there's one on there that would make it kind of redundant, that being Red Dwarf.
Mm-hmm. Then a space journey encounter table along with a random planet generator, which could be useful for a GM, especially if that GM has to come up with stuff on the fly, which they do.
Find me a GM that doesn't come up with stuff on the fly, and I'll find you a GM that's never actually played a game.
Yep. Then things like the jump drive and lay gates, a second-hand bionics table. And Cheese, yes, I do know what you mean. And Cheese is also asking, who's the alien dude in the corner? That's Neff. I'm
Hi.
surprised it took you this long to figure that out. But a lot of the stuff that's in here is stuff that's repeats of what we saw throughout the main book. This is just essentially covering the appendix. And after that, we have the character sheet proper, which we saw before, as well as one for the vehicle. And a index. And that more or less covers Weirdspace, the game of sci-fi bollocks. So, I will say this, the game wears its influences and its style on its sleeve. You will not hear me say anything bad about that fact.
Yeah, the style, the theme, everything about that is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. On the other hand, maybe
the layout and the formatting needs work.
I get that this is a game that Polecat has worked on for quite a while, going back to his early days. I interviewed him years ago about that. However, a lot of this looks like it was ripped straight from a Word doc, including some of these strange bits of formatting, which end up creating some issues with breakpoints in the text. And of course, we've been bitching about it for the last few weeks, but those tables where you have to tilt the book on its side in order to read it, that's something that's fine in semi-fine in a printed book. Let me be clear. But when you're reading this digitally, which is something you do have to account for, even if some people want to say, "Oh, we should only play games physical," that's not the reality of the situation. It's a royal pain to rotate a PDF. But
unless you happen to have one of those tilty monitors.
Yeah. Now, I know percentile die is definitely up your alley, but I think you'd agree with me, Neff, that this one might have a bit of a higher floor than some other D100 games we've talked about because of the sheer amount of skills and stuff that you're spending those points on. And
yeah, it does seem a little odd for that.
And I'm not talking about the fact that it has a level system along with doing that, because plenty of games do that and make it work. But it has more to do with the fact that there's very little in the way of guidance. You're just given a bunch of points and just thrown right into the middle of it. And for some people, that's going to work. But that is definitely a case of a higher floor. And as far as what I would grade Weirdspace as, now I will note this: the grade that I'm giving does not mean that it's not a good game or good fun can't be had with the game. But I have to review these things holistically whenever I cover them. And if I'm being honest, the grade I'd probably end up giving Weirdspace is at most playable. The GM is going to have to do some extra work with this game, but it is workable.
I'm going to be honest. I'd consider this book to be a rough draft.
See, that I could see, especially given some of the odd moments we saw in the text. And editing is certainly expensive, so I'm not going to throw shade about that.
Well, expensive or time-consuming. And honestly, this could have used some time and fixed up a good portion of a lot of the stuff, especially the sideways tables.
Yeah, that I'm not willing to defend. I will play devil's advocate with some bits, not that. But even with that, I still enjoy a lot of the humor within the game. I just think that presentation and navigation wise, it's jank. There is a lot of jank going on with this. And I think that is going to play a factor when it comes to assessing its particular qualities. Now, that being said, that is, like I said, that's going to wrap up Weirdspace for us. I know this was a short episode, but GM sections tend to get skimmed over because of the fact that there's not a whole lot for us to dissect in them. And with a lot of the stuff we skimmed past in this, there's not a whole lot to really say that we haven't already said.
Said repeatedly in some of the cases.
Mm-hmm. Like navigation, editing, presentation, and when I say presentation, I don't mean like fancy graphics or anything like that, but just the way the text is presented. Some things good.
Some of the stylizing really could use some work too.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I can understand you saying rough draft, and I want to couch this because I certainly don't have anything against Paul Catt. He's a good guy and definitely a very funny guy. So the stuff that I'm saying here, I say out of care. Weirdspace could do with a cleanup. As it currently is, it would be difficult for me to do a recommend with this, which is why I went with playable as the highest grade I could go with. If I'm being completely honest, I should probably bump it to caution, just because the GM is going to have to do a whole lot more oversight than normal. Not full-on helicopter parent, but they're definitely going to have to keep a close eye on things.
Prepare for spanking.
Mm-hmm. And at some point when house ruling a given game, you stop being a house ruler and you start being a backseat designer. I know I've mentioned that in the past, but it keeps applying. So I will continue to mention it. But with that said, next week we'll have one shot before I close out the month of February. with a little game called High Stakes. And obviously right after that, well, we'll be discussing some of the changes that are going to be coming in March, because there will be plenty of things that are getting changed. So, as always, thank you to everyone who sat around for this particular season of the Valley of the Judged, and I hope to see some of you again for what we've got coming next within this open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ